Get started in a few minutes as soon as a few viewers jump on. But until then, welcome. Okay. We'll get started in just a few minutes. This happened the last time I was on here. I don't show any comments or views on my screen. I have to go to a separate tab so I can see we've got several comments. Hi. Hello, Dawn and Megan. Welcome. Just pan back and forth and see my eyes going back and forth between the two different screens. All right, well tonight, I'll give it another minute, but I'm actually going to be turning off my computer camera because there will not be any sewing tonight. I'll go into more of that. The sewing part takes a long time, so I'm going to just explain what I do and go from there. Tonight is more just about creating the quilt block applique ready to be sewn. So without further ado, it's about 3 minutes past the time of the show starting. So I'm going to go into my thing and I'm going to turn that off and get ready. All right. So we're going to begin. So for tonight, there is a link in the description that you can find the pattern for this block. This block measures when you start 19 inches once it's finished. And the reason I made it slightly larger is, we'll get into that, is if you want to make the pillow cover, you want to always start with it slightly larger than the size that you want it to be once it is sewn. I'll get more into that at the end on how, a little bit of detail of how you can do the pillow cover. We're not sewing that tonight, but yeah, so I'll get into that later. So what you're going to need for tonight is you are going to need the template with the pieces, and you're going to need several, I already kind of have them labeled. You're going to need, first off, you're going to need two pieces of fabric. These I've already sewn together. They are the top of the pillow, or the quilt block, and the bottom. They measured, before they were sewn, they measured 19 inches long by 9 3/4 inch wide. And when I sewed them, it took off 1/4 inch from each one, so once it's sewn, it becomes 19 inches by 19 inches. So you will need to have this to start, but we'll put this aside for a moment because we have to do a little bit of prep work before we get to assembling all of this. All right, so back to our pattern. I do already have pieces cut out, so I don't need to cut those out, but I'm gonna have to cut out all of my shapes tonight with the fabric. So for this, I did 2 different color strawberries. I did a kind of a mottled red. This one will be 2 of my strawberries. And then I did like a lighter pinkish color will be another strawberry. So you need that. You will need some kind of green for your leaf, as well as the part of the basket. I am using the same color that I used for my background for the top. Each of these will also need some HeatnBond Lite. HeatnBond Lite, it comes with the purple packaging. It looks like this. This you must sew. So I did say earlier, I am not going to be doing any of the sewing of the applique. I'm just going to be bonding it to the fabric tonight. When I made the example, it took me over 45 minutes to do all of the applique sewing, and I didn't think that was something you'd want to sit and watch me do. So I will just be sharing how we build the quilt block up. If you don't want to do any sewing and you want it to be just a simple no-sew block, you can use the red packaging. Don't have any in here, but this requires no sewing. So have those options. All right, so I've already got all of my pieces just cut out. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to bond our HeatnBond Lite to our fabric. So I'm going to do it step by step I'm going to bond it, and then I'm going to trace the pattern and then cut it. I'm going to do that for all my pieces to get them all ready. And since I already have the part of the basket on here, I will start with that. So let me get my iron. For this, you need to have it on medium heat. And I had it on, but let me warm that up. While that's warming up tonight, I'm also going to show you how I'm using HeatnBond Sparkle Paste by Jennifer Long. That is what gives these little extra flare of glitter to my piece. If you don't want to do that, the pattern does come with the strawberry seed shape, and you can actually just cut and applique that in the same manner that we're doing tonight with the other pieces. All right, so what I need to do is I'm going to bond. So with this, you set it down for about 2 seconds on the paper side. The textured side goes onto the wrong side of your fabric, and you do about 2 seconds in each spot. Okay, I'm going to let that cool and grab my pattern and my pen. And my scissors. Once it's cool enough, you would then trace the template. And what's nice about this one, it's got a straight edge, so we can trace them right on top each other. Line that up there and trace it again. And the pattern has 3 of these. Now this pattern, I have the template is to make the 18-inch finished block size. However, you can reduce it on your computer if you know how to do that by shrinking the image down. If there's like usually in the printing area, there's like a percentage. You can shrink it to 50%, and it would probably give you about the size of a 9-inch block if you did 50%. But you would have to kind of test it out. I did not do that, but the ability of that it is big enough and it can go smaller. Of course, it can always go bigger, but then you have to puzzle piece the papers together because the pattern fits all on one sheet of paper. All right, so we're going to cut these out. am no perfectionist, so you will see. You could probably even see it when I was tracing it. I think the last time, it's still light out. The last time I did one of these, it was in May, and it was the beginning of May, so it was light, but it was not as light as it is now. I can still hear all sorts of things going on outside. Not sure if you can, they're picked up over the camera. So, all right, now we have our 3 basket pieces. We're gonna set those off to the side. Don't need them quite yet. And we're going to then move on to the next piece, and we're going to do the one that's on top that I have, and we're going to do the strawberry green part, the stem, the leaves. I'm not exactly sure if it has like a actual name or if it's just the stem and leaves. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to keep it on medium heat, and we're going to hold it for 2 seconds and just move it down the line, 2 seconds to bond it. Going off my mat over there. And I can't remember if I gave measurements of the colored pieces on the blog. I may or may not have. Just me. I think I did, because I remember I did 5 inches. This is about 5 inches. But this is a great scrap. Find scrap pieces. They don't all have to match. You could probably even create like a patchwork of the strawberry and then cut it out. It would be really, it's very versatile. So now we're going to trace our strawberry leaf. I'm going to do 2 of the same direction, and then what's really nice is you can flip it and create a mirror image so that they don't all look identical. They are identical, but then they don't look like it. So, and you notice that this moves around. I do have something called pattern and stencil spray. I'm actually going to use that. Now I'm going to spray it over top my trash can, but I spray the pattern so that it gets a little sticky, and then it will hold so it doesn't move around on me. So I just sprayed a little bit. You can't really see it, but it's, do a little bit more. Okay. And then that will stick. It sticks. And now I don't have to, I can hold it but not fear that it's going to slide out from under me. It just peels right off. This is fun. I'm going to do another one. Same direction. And then of course, like I said, this is not going to be, it does not have the pattern spray on the other side. I am going to do a reverse. So this one I'm just going to kind of hold in place. And what's nice about it, it's an organic shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can add more leaves, less leaves, give them some texture. Many options. All right, so we're going to cut these out now. And this piece is a little bit longer, so I don't really need it. I'm going to hold on to this, though. There are some great tutorials. I've done a few where I've used scrap pieces to make things. You can find those if you look on ThermOWeb's YouTube. I believe I've done 1 or 2 Facebook Lives with the idea of scrap HeatnBond. So I'm just going to kind of cut these out. Now before I assemble all these, I will check the chat, see if there's any questions. I know I have a helpful moderator on there. Her name's Dawn. She is amazing at answering all your questions. Okay, we got one. And you may notice with my fabric, I am actually just using 3 of these are batik fabric. So batik doesn't have a right or wrong side, that you can use either side. But when you use the HeatnBond, you want to make sure you bond it to the wrong side. And I do have one fabric, the big red one. That one has a right and wrong, and I'll show that to you when I get to it. These pillows actually, since I'll have a pair once this is finished, are going to go on my front porch. I have, for the last several years, had pillows that I made for ThermOWeb out on the porch, and they have greatly faded. We get evening sun on my front porch, and they've lasted for several years. I want to say 2022 is when I made them. They were like a bow pillow. They're really pretty. So these will replace them and look amazing. So I'm going to put these off to the side. Get this out of here. And then next, we're going to move on. I'm going to do the smaller of the fabric. So this one's just going to have one. I do want to make sure I don't accidentally get some of the adhesive on my mat. You can see I have done that in the past. Happens. Okay, so again, 2-second intervals of pressing to bond to your fabric. Now ThermOWeb does make another HeatnBond double-sided fusible webbing. It's called Feather Light, and that could also work. Oh, this might be a little small. That's okay. That's all right. I'll talk about why it's okay. It might be nice for this project because there's multiple layers. Feather Light works really well when you layer multiple applique pieces on top of each other. This, the most will be 2 layers, so it's really not a major thing. And I just mentioned that I did not do my measurement right, but it's okay because I know I have to sew this. So if I wasn't sewing, it would not be good. You would need to redo it if you were using the red. But since I know I have to sew this, I'm going to be a little off. I just need, when I sew it, it's fine because it's going to get sewn down. But the majority of this piece is going to be adhered to my background fabric. So just a little bit off, but that is okay. Now, and it might actually be even better, because what I'm going to show you what we can do, what you're going to do with some of these is we're actually going to trim off some of the bottoms of these when we line it up on our quilt block background. So you may notice that I put the bottom of the heart-shaped strawberry on the side without the adhesive, and you'll see why. So this has some good pieces. A lot of times I'll cut down when I got big chunks, and I'll save them. Like these, I don't need those pieces, but these will do. So there is one. But now we need to do two more. And I mentioned that this fabric is not, this is not a batik, so you can see there's a right and a wrong. However, if you were looking for a more faded, you could go with that side, but we want the stronger red. And then this is a little long, so we're going to trim it. All right, so I'm going to adhere it slightly up here before I trim it down there so that it holds. So again, 2-second intervals of pressing. Before I get down there, I'm going to trim this off. All right. Again, tracing. This one I could probably have used the spray. That would help. So you can see it's moving on me. I was looking for the spray. I lost it. It's somewhere. Probably fell on the ground. And then I am going to put it up as close to that one as possible because I have all that extra I can use for other projects. I like to cut them down. I feel like it's easier to work with a smaller piece than the larger one. And for anybody who jumped on and did not hear the beginning, so tonight I'm just demonstrating how to assemble the block. I'm not actually going to be sewing it. I will talk about when you do sew it, what really helps in that process, but the sewing of the applique part took me over 45 minutes to do on that pillow because of the change. I changed colors and all the different direction changes. So I will not be demonstrating the sewing part. All right, so now we have all of our pieces. So now we have to assemble. So I'm going to bring over our piece. And before I start assembling, I am going to go check the chat just take a brief second and get a drink of water, and then we'll get back to it. Okay. So now we're going to assemble this. We know this line is the middle because the measurements are, now that it is sewn, it is 9.5 inches and 9.5 inches. Before sewn, it was 9 3/4. So we know that this is the center, which makes that easy. But we do need to find the center this direction. That just kind of helps give us a better visual for placement. So I'm just going to put a gentle press mark crease. So I know what is center, because I will put my middle strawberry and my middle piece of my basket along that line. So when assembling this, you want to make sure you don't put anything too close to the edges. In the case of a quilt block, you're going to have at least 1/4 inch seam allowance. And in the case of a pillow, this is 19 inches square, but a pillow, once it is sewn, is going to be smaller. So if you were to put this make this into a pillow, I have instruction you would trim this down to 18 inches. And the reason I say 18, but why do we have 19? Because when you make a pillow cover, you quilt it. You essentially make a mini quilt, and quilting sometimes kind of shrinks that up a little bit. So making sure you have enough fabric once you've quilted it, or like the applique process, that is also quilting the project. So you want to make sure nothing is too close to the edge, because you might be trimming a little bit off, and then eventually you'll be sewing it in as well. So I'm going to actually peel the paper off because it helps me lay it flatter. You can see the shiny goes down, and this is going to go right in the center where the crease is, and then I'm going to place these two on either side. I normally just eyeball it, but for this sake, we'll measure. We're going to do, let me see what my other one is. Let's see what I did. I did 2 inches exactly. So 2 inches exactly, and from here to here was 1 inch. So I'll make sure they're identical. So what do we got? Oh, almost eyeballed it right. And then 2 inches here, and we'll measure 1 inch. We need to actually peel that paper first. Peel the paper first, then put it down. And we'll peel this one too. And when I peel, I simply just do like a little tear, and it helps me. So that's my method. All right, so we need 2 inches by 1 inch. We're going to be the same. Oh, that's bad. There we go. 2 inch by 1 inch. Now when you press these down, so when we adhered at first it was 2 seconds, now it's about 6 seconds. So just same thing, medium heat, 6 seconds. Okay. Oh, I must have hit that. All right. And that's the basket part. Now let me move that down. Now for the strawberries, I already know I'm going to put the light pink one in the center, and I'm going to put my dark ones on either side. but as you can see, I have white showing, and I don't want that. So I mentioned earlier that we are going to trim it, but you want to have as much of the heart as possible because you don't know how you plan. You know, I don't know on each individual level how they're going to plan to do this. So I have it, trying to make it similar to the other one. So these ones are actually a little bit closer, and this is pulled up right about there. So I'm going to trim that off, and you can see it almost trimmed all of it off. And actually that piece is going to be hidden underneath here, so it's not even going to matter that it is missing some of the adhesive. And we'll center it just slightly. And this next one, this one's going to get a little bit more cut off. Of course, don't peel it yet. You can use this for other things. And this basket, of course, just has 3. You could make them smaller and add more. That's another reason I gave the whole heart shape instead of only part of it. I just like the number 3, so that's what we're going with. I'm going to put that right there. That looks good. Actually, before I put those on, let's adhere this one. So 6-second intervals again. And these are pretty big. I like to keep my really big ones. These work great as almost like a pressing paper, which we will be needing later. I won't be demonstrating that, but it is something to consider keeping, and I'll share with you why in a little bit. All right, let's press these. And the last thing we need to adhere is our tops. Now I had one that was the opposite, and that's this one. So I want to make sure, let's see. I don't know, I just kind of play with them. It looks best. And they can overlap. You can make it so they don't overlap if you want. That's the nice thing about organic forms is they can be however you want. Anybody on here grows strawberries? I do. I know ever-bearing ones. So I got a nice little chunk earlier this year. filled about 2 quart-sized bags. They're small. And then I'll get another bunch here in a couple weeks. And then there's random ones that I can pick on the daily and just eat. My girls like them. I freeze them since I don't get a ton of them at one time. Just freeze them so that either A, we can make smoothies with them, or B, I do like to can strawberry jam. All right. So that is essentially all of the HeatnBond pressing. What I am going to do is I am going to share with you how the next steps if you were to create this into a pillow form. If you were simply doing a quilt block, you could trim this down to 18 inches if that was your quilt block size, or you can leave it at 19 and make just a simple little mini quilt wall hanging. And it's the same process because you'll need to have your batting and your backing. So we're going to do that. I'm not going to do any stitching. I'm going to use some basting adhesive to keep them together, but I am going to share with you how to do the sparkle paste. That won't matter whether it's sewn or not yet, because I'm not going to do it on anywhere there will be sewing. So it'll be dry and I'll be able to cure it and it'll be all fine. But before we get to that, we're going to flip it over and we're going to use some basting spray to baste a batting, or in this case, I'm using some of the StitchnSew Fleece. So it is not a fusible fleece. It is, you have to sew it, and I am using the SpraynBond as my way to baste it. I have cut it slightly larger than my piece because I find it better to be able to see the piece. That way I know that it's not sneaking itself underneath and then it's not getting covered. So I'm going to gently spray the basting spray over here. I don't normally spray on my mat. I do it on the ground, but for purposes of the video, this, as you can tell, is my other old mat and it already has some damages to it, so it's okay. I'm going to just, a little bit goes a long way. It's really nice, holds it. Okay. Now, if you were creating just like a little mini quilt, I would suggest that your backing be something nice. I'm going to flip this over and just kind of make sure. Can't see it over here, but this is a little bit longer, but we're okay. I would make sure your backing piece is pleasing to the eye if it's something you want to see. However, because I'm turning this into a pillow cover, you won't see the inside of the quilted piece because there is a pillow in there, but I will share with you. I'll take the pillow out of the pillow cover. You can see I have a random piece of fabric that I really don't care for, and that is what I'm using. I'm going to give it a little press before I adhere it. I have it on medium heat, so it's not going to do too much. Turn it up to a little high heat. Okay. And again, I'm going to baste it with my basting spray very carefully on my mat. I'm just doing short little bursts. All right, so at this placed it ready for sewing. This is where I would typically go in and do whatever kind of stitching I like. I prefer the blanket stitch when I do my applique. Some people do zigzag. Some you could even do a free motion, and what that is where you have it's a specific foot on your machine. It's used for free motion quilting, and you can do almost what's called like painting. It's called thread painting. You just go over and over and over your pieces until you know that it's adhered. But I got the camera up a little higher today because it's a big piece. You can see I did a blanket stitch, and this I did two different colors. I did a really pretty red and a really pretty green. I even did red down here. I really wanted to make it pop, and since green and red are complementary colors, it does just that. But since I'm not going to sew it for you tonight, I am though going to show you how to do this. So what I did before the video is I took this piece. This is just computer paper. It's really thin, and I traced it onto, this is cardstock. I wanted it to be a little bit thicker because I'm going to use a scraper to create this shape on my strawberries. I'm going to use, this is called Fire Truck Sparkle Paste by Jennifer Long. If you want to imagine about kind of what it is if you've ever gotten a shirt that's got like glitter on it and you can wash it and it's still there, that's what this is. And I love it. I love anything that sparkles. So how this is going to work, I'm just using an old card, and I cut it so that I could get and scoop it out. And we're going to, let's see, I'm left-handed. So we're going to start over here, and I'm going to work my way over here. I'm going to try to get 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 on this one. So I'm going to hold it down with my fingers once I get a little bit of this on here. A little bit goes a long way. I'm going to hold it, and you're going to press and scrape. And then I scraped it all off, and there it is. And then sometimes with these, I always like to make sure I don't have anything on the back. Sometimes it does seep down. Nice thing about this is if you get it on any fabric, it will just wash away unless it is set. So right now I'm just wiping it on some scrap fabric. So if you don't like it, you can essentially kind of wash this before you set it, and it will come out. And I've done it. I've taken it off of a piece before. It comes right out as long as I don't set it. So I want one there. I'm actually going to do it even though I haven't done the ones in there. So I still have some on here. I'm going to press and drag, press and drag. Scrape off the extra. Okay, nothing really on the back. I'm gonna get a little bit more. And I believe they have like 14 different colors. And this is why I go from left to right. So I'm gonna cut some of this down. I make mistakes so you don't have to. All right, we got 4 on that one. Just gonna set that in there. All right, this one, we're just gonna kind of fill maybe 2 in here. It's not a lot of space. But we can't forget about our little strawberry in the back. Now, if you find your cardstock is not holding up, you might do best with creating more than one, depending on, or creating it out of something a little more sturdy, like a piece of plastic. Now, that's doing a pretty good job. It's not really getting on the back too much. We're going to probably do 4 on this one. My general rule is to have an odd number, but there is an odd number of strawberries. So, odd numbers tend to be more pleasing to the eye. Last one. Now, what I'm going to have to do is you have to let this dry, typically about an hour. Depends on how thick. Like some of these have a little bit of a thicker edge, so it might take a little longer. There we go. And any tools you have, you'll want to wash them pretty quick, right away. This is plastic, though. I'm not concerned too much about it. But if you were to say, let's use a paintbrush, I would wash it out. I wouldn't just let it sit and dry on there. It will ruin it. But I'm just using a piece of scrap. So you would let this dry about an hour or so. And then what I was mentioning is if you keep your scrap paper from your HeatnBond Lite, this is essentially like a pressing paper. And when you have to heat set this so that it becomes permanent, you can use this. When you heat set it, you put it on high heat for 60 seconds. And you do that over each piece. So that is it. So I do have a link. This is all I'm doing tonight, because I got to let this dry now, and then I'll heat set it, and then I will go and do all the applique and then create the pillow. I'm going to put this to the side and bring the other one over. Let me just kind of show you, a lot goes into, see how it's quilted. Turn it inside out. It's quilted with the applique. You could also add some free motion quilting or some lines if you didn't want just the applique to be the quilted portion. See, I got some strings. That's what gives it the quilted. There is a video at the bottom of the blog post where all this information is on ThermOWeb's site that gives you another video on how to turn this into a pillow. That starts at about the 3-minute marker. It is one of mine, and it shows you how to essentially add these in. It also shows you how to make, you might notice this is not like square. It actually has some roundness to it, because if you've ever made a pillow cover before and you're like, man, I got these edges that kind of just stick out. They're like little points. This is called a tapered corner, and I have on the video, and I believe I have it on the blog. If I don't have it on the blog, it's on the video. A template from So Sweetness to how to do tapered corners, and that is all as well in the video, and this is available for you as well. So I'm going to go back to the computer and check out the chat, see if there's any questions or anything else that needs to be taken care of. But again, I want to first say thank you for joining me tonight. It was really fun creating this. I love anything to do with food. If you've seen much of my work, you would know that. We didn't have my little donut guy over here today. I don't know where he is. I have a donut pin cushion that is a fan favorite. Didn't need any pins tonight. So I'm going to check out the chat, and we'll close out the live here in just a couple short minutes. Thank you, everybody. myself back on. There we go. Hello. All right. So yeah, hopefully, if you've been reading the chat, make sure you've dropped a comment. You're going to be entered for tonight's giveaway. I'm just going to read through. Some of them. All right, our winner is Karen Van Vliet Luther. Thank you. And congratulations, Karen. Make sure you send an email to Dawn and you'll get your $25 online gift card. You can get some of that sparkle paste. It's a game changer if you like anything that glitters. All right, and again, thank you everybody. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you next time.